Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Farafina Show. My name is Akim Kumar. In studio today, we have Dr. Crystal Bryant-Freeman, and we have Trukon in studio. Dr. Crystal, a West African immigrant, came to the United States, and like many of us would do, we come to the United States, we overcome some struggle to get where we are. So she's going to tell us where she started from and where she is today to inspire other people in the community. So joining us today is Dr. Crystal Bryant-Freeman and Trukon. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome, studio guests. And tonight we have in the studio here Dr. Crystal Bryant-Freeman, a Liberian immigrant who is currently residing in the United States. Tonight we're going to be looking at the living truth, the real living truth about how immigrants migrate to the United States, their life, their struggle, education, and how they've been able to be successful in this landscape. And without much ado, I'd like to invite my guest and say, Dr. Bryant, welcome to the Serafina Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So just to kick off the show, tell me a little bit about your background. I understand you grew up in West Africa, Liberia. Where specifically in Liberia did you grow up?
I grew up in Monrovia. Well, actually started off in Yegipa as a young child, born in Yegipa, and then moved to Monrovia. Was educated primarily in the United Methodist system. So went to J.J. Roberts United Methodist School, and then moved on to the College of West Africa, where I obtained my my diploma, my high school diploma, and then transitioned over to the United States right within that age for college. So I came from a really traditional Liberian family where it is not just the parents. There's also the extended relatives. I do have one sibling. My parents, my mother is actually here. I have a sibling, and then I have a host of cousins, aunts, uncles. I had a grandmother, on my maternal side who was very instrumental also with me in my growing up. So that's a little bit about my background.
Well, sounds pretty interesting. So how did you make the transition over here? How did you come over to the United States?
As my mother was the person who actually did our documents, and we immigrated. My brother and I immigrated through her. Also, a little bit of that was around college time. So she wanted us to obtain our college education here. So all of that kind of played a role in us coming here. Made the transition. Obviously, I probably started college maybe within the month that I was here. So made the transition a little difficult. I think we'll touch on that in a little bit. Right. But just within going from high school, getting your high school education in West Africa, different scenery, different way of life, to transitioning here, into that college life. So.
There's a part of the family life that I'd like to talk about. Tell me a little bit about your mom and your dad. What did they do back home?
My father was an engineer, so he was an engineer, electrical engineer, and
who was he? What was his name?
Thomas Bryant.
Thomas Bryant. Okay.
Thomas Bryant, Thomas Wallaby Bryant, is electrical engineer. Like as I said. Very strict. I remember that of him, and big into education, very big. He was the guy who you would go to school, you would go to study class. That was something we did in Liberia a lot. And then after study class, you came when you had to study again. My mother was kind of a more the supportive person as she is now. Very strict in her own way, very supportive. The both of them instilled in me at a very early age, the importance of education, the value of education. They also instilled the value of family and social life, and the need to be, to be productive in life and be a productive citizen that contribute, to the well-being. I think maybe they didn't say it as much as they lived it, but their actions showed me that you needed to leave your mark in society, one way or the other. And so that helped. They also instilled that you needed to be honorable, that you needed to be, reliable, and a host of other things, things that we also learn as Africans, that our community is watching us and is somehow relying on us to make a difference.
One of the things that caught my attention is that you say your parents were pretty big on education. Mm-hmm. Do you think that may have contributed to where you find yourself today?
They did, definitely financially and supportively, through like life savings. When we came over, my mother was the parent who said, if you guys, focus on going to school, I would take care of the bills and I would take care of, everything so you can be successful. So they contributed. I mean, there's really no way around it. As we talk more, I'll talk a little bit about grad school, but I can even go on to say, as I was, in the process of getting my doctorate, and how towards the end, finances were really tough because you could only work so much, and and so I had to lean on, her and my brother, having them kind of pitch in here and there to make ends meet. So. Yeah.
When we talked about the immigrant story, we always talked about the story of success, where we know that a lot of migrants that come over to the United States and North America, we look at the story from grace, from grass to grace. Now, I've been knowing you outside of, offline, but I hear you often talked about your mom. I see you with your mother. It's okay for me to use this platform to just ask you about your father.
Well, yeah, I mean.
So tell me a little bit about your father. Did he make that transition to you with the family to come over to the States?
No, no, he did not. My father was unfortunately one of the casualties of the Liberian Civil War, and it's obviously it's tough, even though it's been a number of years. But it's a tough thing to talk about. As a lot of us went through the Civil War, within that little vulnerable age, we were, kids. Young kids, and it was very abrupt. Our lives got changed pretty rapidly and abruptly, went from one thing to the other. So he did not. It was a hard thing, but even at the age that I was separated from him, or we lost him, he had instilled by that time some of the values that I carry on to today. So it just shows that when you have a child and you start at a young age and instill certain values to them, that does carry on into their life. So again, education and being successful and being a productive citizen were things that I learned from him. Tenacity was one thing. I can tell a story about learning how to ride my bike. Gosh, I was probably maybe somewhere between 6 and 8, and I needed to transition. Maybe I was even younger than that, but I needed to transition from the training wheels to the two cycle things. Right. And my younger brother he's kind of quick. He's very fast, so he was riding regularly, and I was still had the little training wheels. So, and my dad was like, "No, you need to move on to this." And I remember how he took me to like a little pathway in the community, and the thing was, today you're gonna learn how to ride a bike. Right. Ride a bike without the wheels. And we did it that day. And I did not leave that spot or leave that area until I was riding a bike, without the training wheels. So,
Dr. Bryant, our guest here on the Sarafina show today, tell me about your education when you transitioned to the United States. Which school did you go to? What motivated you to get into nursing? And what are some of the benefits that you are reaping today?
I started off at the Minneapolis Community College and got my associate degree in nursing. To kind of backtrack from that actually a little bit too, when you talk about what motivated me, coming to the United States, I knew that I was going to do something in science. I always liked science. I was kind of on the science track in high school. I went to a school that, kind of split us up. He took the science track or the arts track. So I know I was going to do something in science, but I was kind of more on maybe I'll do a biology major type thing. And on my way to the States, I actually met a friend on the plane, someone I didn't know, but I just met her, and she's actually in the audience right now, Yeba Manston Dunbar. And for some random reason, we started to talk about careers. First time meeting, just young ladies talking, and we started to talk about career, and she somehow started to talk about nursing. And I think maybe indirectly, she was probably the first person who sold nursing to me, and she just, talked about it. It was on my mind, but then I came, and started to go to school and whatnot. But I think that whatever seed she planted stayed in my mind. And with time and just learning more and doing more research, I did transition into nursing. And then, like I said, was educated at the Minneapolis Community College, got my associate's degree. and then went on, pretty much quickly after that, on to Oxford College. I got my bachelor's in nursing and then kind of stopped. I focused on work for a while, just trying to, at this point, doing some soul searching, some career searching, just trying to figure out where do I want to go at this point. I knew that I did know I was going to get a graduate degree. I always knew that, I knew that at a pretty young age that I would. But what direction do I want to go was my struggle at that point. So I worked for a few years, and then during that time, got a pretty good picture of who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be. So obviously the next step was, what direction, what do I do now to get to this place, to this, thing that I've projected in my mind? How do I get there? So that was when I started to kind of put some, do a little bit more research, play around with different, majors in grad school. I thought a little bit about doing public health, getting a master's in public health. And then, as I did more research, I'm like, well, where I want to go, public health may not take me there. So then I started, looking more into advanced practice nursing. And this was, 9-10 years ago. During this time, there was not a lot of, people who had my background, who came from where I came from, who was doing that. Or if there were, I didn't know of them. I didn't have anyone that I could go talk to and say, okay, you're doing this thing. How is it? What are your resources? What are you pulling from, and how are you managing? So the only thing I really had to rely on at that point was my desire and these dreams and all of this that I had built up in my head of who I saw myself years, down the line. So based on that, I did apply to the University of Minnesota for their advanced, their adult and geriatric or gerontology nurse practitioner program. And then also, again, there was the thing of, do you do a master's versus a doctorate? And again, I had to step back and, Crystal, where do you see yourself a number of years back? And based on all of those factors, I got into that program, and here I am today.
We live in a times when there are a lot of immigrants that an estimate of 1 million people around the world apply for visa to come into North America, especially the United States. And sometimes when people get over here, they struggle with decision making as to what to get into. Now that you have been able to attain this particular degree, what are the benefits, and what advice or piece of advice would you give people who want to be able to follow suit, young girl or young boy out there?
Well, the question you're asking me, are you asking me someone who wants to get into nursing, or who wants to just
someone who's in nursing and who's aspiring to become an advanced practitioner?
My thing for anything that anyone wants to do is, go for it. If you have the desire to do something, go for it. It will take time. It will take a lot of work. It will take a lot of energy, but go for it. It's your desire. Things that I've learned along the way has been, surrounding yourself with people who will support you, and staying in touch with people who, will just kind of guide you and motivate you and serve as, mentors, be it official or unofficial. And then have goals. Things don't just happen overnight. I explained how, I went from the associate's degree to getting my bachelor's, and then I stopped. Mm-hmm. And I had goals, year after year, planning and working towards the ultimate goal. Right. The main thing is, staying on track. And as you do things, check things off. Don't just push things, along and push things away or sweep things under the rug. You really do have to endure, and you really have to press on if you want to be successful and if you want to obtain certain things.
Let's talk about motivation. What motivates Crystal Bryant?
I'm my biggest motivator. That's the thing. I'm very hard on myself. Right. I'm very hard on myself. But I'm also the person who will look in the mirror and be like, Crystal, you've done X, Y, and Z. You can give yourself a break, but you need to do more. Again, I also say that I'm surrounded with a lot of people. Be it family, be it friends. I can call different people who have inspired me over the years. You know, my cousin is here too, who, you know, we started off at the community college, Precious, you know, and she's gone on to get her bachelor's, you know, and, you know, I have friends, my friend Jabri, my friend Patience, you know, these are people who, even with external circumstances, things that maybe other people will say, oh, maybe I should take a break and not do what I need to do. They've continued on, you know, to get degrees and move themselves from one level to the other, you know, so seeing them and seeing the things that they have had to, you know, overcome and endure and still persevere and achieve goals have motivated me. So surrounding myself with good people and having that support, you know, the family support from my spouse, support from just the community, you know, whichever way, I try to absorb those things and use them as stepping stones and motivations and, you know, inspirations.
I believe you know this old adage that say it takes the village to raise the child. Now that you've been able to come here, you know, we want to be able to look back and say that, you know, with the hard work your mom put into seeing you where you are, taking the inspiration from your dad, who was very astute in his particular discipline that he found himself in. Now that you find yourself in this particular capacity, how are you inspiring other people? I say this again, the backdrop that I'm not going to say a specific name, but I ran into a gentleman the other day, and he spoke very highly of you. As a matter of fact, he just graduated. He got his nurse practitioner degree.
Oh, wow.
And he spoke highly of you, and he said you were an inspiration for him because he was an aide. And every time, you know, I use that one story to say, are you motivating and inspiring other people in the community?
Well, I hope so. You know, mentorship, I think, is a big thing for me. Okay. You know that we have just formed the Liberian Nurses Association.
Right.
And so one of the objectives of that is to inspire other nurses and you know, who want to achieve and go on to get, be it, you know, go from one level to the other, go as far as, you know, master's and doctorate degrees. So I do hope that I serve as inspiration. Personally, I do talk to people. I try to encourage my friends. I try to encourage my family, you know, to be their best, to do what they can do to move their lives from one point to one point to another. I talk to people. I try to be mentors to young, be it nurses aid. What can I help you with? Is there something you want me to read? Is there something you want me to look over? You know, just little things like that. I do believe that each one teaches one, you know. Someone helped me to get to where I am. Why not do it for someone else?
Right.
So.
There's a lot of myth in our community. When you come over here, you know, in the States, and you go into the hospital and getting health care, people will go and they'll be diagnosed and they'll be given medications. Those are some of the challenges in the war. I believe you've heard about some of the challenges that our immigrant community face. What piece of advice would you have for our community and the immigrant community at large who haven't been privileged to get the basic education on some of those myths that they have?
You know, that's a tough one because even looking at my story, growing up in Liberia, there was just certain things that we weren't taught and weren't exposed to. It's very hard to question authority. We were not taught if the doctor says something, you know, you accept it and you move on. So one of the things I always say is ask questions. Be as hard as it is, ask questions. And if you're not comfortable with asking whoever your provider is or your nurses or whatever, asking them questions, you know, come home and find somebody in the community and ask that question. Now, it goes back to us now having that avenue for people to have someone to talk to. Going back to LIBNA as a, you know, the Liberian Nurses Association as a avenue that people will have people that sound like them, understand what they're saying, understand their fears, that they can come back to and say, you know, I was told this. What do you think, or can you explain it to me? Now, we're not going to be the ones diagnosing or re-diagnosing or, you know, going against what their provider said, but we can explain certain words. You know, we can kind of maybe help them understand certain things. I hope that I could be, you know, a tool or a way that someone could utilize or have that service with. And I also hope that that avenue, as Liberian nurses coming together, can help our community, go over those or somehow clarify those myths and help them, have better understanding of certain things.
This is the Sarafina Show, and our special guest today is Dr. Crystal Bryant-Freeman, a Liberian immigrant who's been able to navigate some of the challenging vicissitudes of life to be able to, attain a doctorate degree, and is now practicing with Alina Health. With Alina Health, and she is our special guest on Health Watch here today. Now let's talk about social life. Mm-hmm. What do you like? What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I guess it depends. As I've gotten older, a lot of things have quieted down. So I'm more into traveling now, just having quality time with friends, family. I think my spouse is sitting back there. I do drag him out, every once in a while for us to, just do some fun things. It's very important. It's very important to just kind of remove yourself from all the stressors of life and just get away, be it, locally or internationally and whatnot. But also, I'm very comfortable in just grabbing a book and just finding a little corner somewhere and just reading, just again, getting away some way, somehow. So that's one of my fun things. I love socializing with my friends, going out, just every once in a while, hanging out, doing girl stuff and whatnot. Gosh, I must be boring at this point because that's it.
So outside of Lebanon, mm-hmm. what other activities are you actively involved with in the community, with church and other things? What other activities are you active with?
I am part of a church, active as best as I can. I'm also part of the College of West Africa Alumni Association,
oh, really?
So we've done a lot of things to help better the school, different projects. Our latest project, actually, we just funded a printer for the school. So I'm doing that again, a part of giving back to an institution that is, has helped me move, from one level to the other. As I said, I obtained my diploma with them. So I do that, again, we talked about church and just other little social, groups as I can. I try not to, do too much because work takes a lot of, so when I have my free time, I like to, enjoy that free time also too. So.
We have about under 7 minutes here. I'm going to give you the opportunity for anybody who's watching the Sarafina Show on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Our guest today is Dr. Crystal Bryant-Freeman. Dr. Freeman, I'm going to give you the next 5 minutes. What teaching information or education piece would you like to actually share with our audience with regards to health? We just, I know you are a member of LIBNA, mm-hmm. and LIBNA happens to be the Liberian Nurses Organization, mm-hmm. which of course I am a member of, mm-hmm. and she is on the board there. We are very proud of the organization. But as a practitioner in the community, what are some of the things that you want to actually share with the audience out there watching from Liberia around the world about the United States and healthcare?
Well, in terms of just as being a practitioner, right. I'm really big in, people taking care of themselves, be it having regular, health exams, being in touch with your doctor, making sure that you're getting, all your screenings that you need to do, make sure you're getting all your shots that you need. So we're in a country that we're fortunate to have those opportunities. Why not, use them, take the most of it? I hear people say, I'm not taking my flu shot this year. Why? You have the opportunity to take the flu shot. So things like primary prevention and just overall taking care of yourself. And we're not talking about just, physically, holistic care is one of the things that I strive for. When I became a nurse, I struggled to kind of define what kind of nurse I wanted to be, and even more as I became an advanced practice nurse. And so I would always pay attention to nursing theories. And so I kept, trying to find one that fit that in my ideal or my idea as a nurse. And Kristen Swanson's theory of caring was something that I use as a guidance. And, you know, basically it talks about, you know, helping the client to achieve well-being. And well-being is, you know, your total self well-being. So it's not just physically, but emotionally. So taking care of the whole person so that's what I strive for as a provider, and that's why I try to share to my patients. Do not forget about yourselves. You know, as Africans, I think we tend to take care of everybody around us and forget about ourselves. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family, obviously, but also take care of yourself, your whole self, emotionally, physically, mentally, and all of that.
The Sarafina show is actually screened before a live audience. At this time, we're going to actually join my co-host, Donzo, who's behind the camera today, to give an opportunity to the audience to ask questions if they need be to Dr. Freeman here.
All right, thanks, Trogon. And I want to give the opportunity to myself first to ask a question, and then I'll do that for the audience. So my question to you, Dr. Crystal, is you spoke about education. When you came to the United States, you know, you wanted to study something else and ended up studying nursing. So many people struggle a lot to decide if they want to go for passion or they go for money or whatever they want to do. So what would be your advice? Should you do or study something that you like, or study something that will give you more money? Because I've seen so many people trying to study something that will give them more money, and at the end of the day, they fail to get what they want. So what would be your advice?
Well, a little bit about myself. So I started off, you know, talking about biology, which is a pretty major factor in nursing. So it wasn't like I made such a huge jump where I went from, you know, business to nursing or something like that. I stayed within the healthcare. It was just I went on a different track. I'm a big person, a big believer in passion. You have to do something that you're happy about. You know, one of the reasons why I get up every morning and go to work and don't feel like I'm actually working is because I really love what I do. Right. You know, you have to do things that you're passionate about. And I think that was probably instilled in me as a child also too, because I talk about my family a little bit, and my younger brother, you know, he over the years have always mentioned that he wanted to do something. He always wanted to, like, you know, get an event hall, and he would talk about it, and he and I would have a conversation, and I would be, you know, as the older sister, giving all the reasons why, you know, probably this is not a good idea and this and that, and he'd be like, no, but this is what I want to do. And he's, you know, persevered, and now he has the Purple Rose event hall in Cool Rapids, you know, a multifunctional hall owned by Liberian, and, you know, ready for all your events. So this passion, you know, it was something that just watching him made me realize that, you know, you have to do what you want to do. Right. So it's not, I don't think doing things for money is the right way to go, because it will feel like work. You want to do something that doesn't feel like work, that you're happy with doing every day.
Do you have more question for anybody in the audience for Dr. Bryant?
So far, no.
Well, if you're joining us here, this is the Sarafina Show. We're coming to you live by Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Our guest of honor today here, our special guest, is Dr. Crystal Bryant-Freeman, a Liberian immigrant who lives in the United States right now with her family. And tonight, today we are discussing just Health Watch, talking about her personal life and some of the challenges and experiences that she's had in the United States. One question before we actually wrap up things here. What are some of the challenges that you faced as an early practitioner in the industry?
You know, I think the challenges I faced maybe came from beforehand, you know, just, I think transitioning, there was, like I said, it was, you know, 9-10 years ago, there was a lot of apprehension. There was not, you know, people that I could maybe talk to and really, you know, guide me. And so there was challenges about that, going from being, you know, a nurse working on the floor to, you know, someone who now can assess and diagnose and treat. You know what, it's a little bit, can be a little bit scary. But again, I did have a vision, you know, of who I saw myself and where I wanted to be. And because I had this vision, you know, I also had goals. And so I work on these goals. You know, life is about continuously learning. You know, I try to do a lot of self-learning and self-development. And so whatever challenges I had, be it, you know, apprehension, be it the fear of, you know, transitioning from one role to the other, I've tried over time to work with it. And again, just surround myself with positive people who serve as, you know, inspiration and guides and mentors and things like that.
We have one more question from the audience. Akim, who is one of the hosts of the Farafina show. I believe you have a question for Dr. Bryant.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Freeman. Thank you, Chukon. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look at the biggest audience. You know, let's give a hand of applause for the biggest audience here. And, okay, so we have a couple of people in the audience who would like to ask our honorable guest here some question. Dr. Freeman, are you ready for all the hard questions?
Yeah, bring it on.
All right, what's your name?
My name is Precious Stewart, and I'm so grateful and thank you so much for taking the time to do this because it's very much coming. But I want to also know, after this have gone live and people have seen it, and I want you, how can they reach you? Are you easily accessible? Do you have a contact that if someone want to reach out to you to see how best you can help them, or maybe they have questions for you, so how can that be possible?
I think at this point, I would probably just backtrack into the Libna Forum.
Right.
You know, as a member of the Liberian Nurses Association, with, you know, and very active in our goals and objectives, you know, I would refer you back, and that would be probably a better avenue to reach me, because it's not just me. Now you're tapping into the resources of countless nurses. And so using that, we do have a website, libna.org, I believe. And, you know, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us online. So using that resources, but also since you're here, I can share my contact information with you and talk to you one-on-one with any questions and concerns that you may have, Sister Precious.
Thank you very much. We have one more person in the audience who would like to ask a question. What's your name?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yeba Manston Dunbar. Dr. Bryant, I know you stress a lot about mentorship, you know, and that's your passion. So, and I know one of the biggest challenge that we have in our community for young people to aspire to higher education is like financial, you know, challenges and stuff like that. And sometimes that kind of hinder their dreams and their aspiration. What is one takeaway that the audience can take away from you, or what is one motivation or information that you can kind of provide to your audience in terms of encouraging them to, you know, aspire to higher education despite of financial challenges, or what are resources that you're aware of that they can tap into to further their, you know, aspirations and dreams? Thank you.
I did. I had a gap between getting my bachelor's and moving on to you know, advanced practice. And so during that time, I did do some research in finances. I think we kind of mentioned that a little bit when I did my prelude here last week, of how finances does play a huge part in a lot of people wanting to go to school. You have to save. You have to save. You have to cut back. You know, not everyone is fortunate to have, you know, a mother, a brother, or a spouse, or somebody that they can reach on and lean onto. So saving is one. You know, cutting back is one, and doing those things are hard. But if you're there, it's hard. But if you are looking towards a goal and you have a goal in mind, you try, you do whatever it takes to reach that goal. The other thing too is just looking for things like, you know, scholarships. There are scholarships out there. There are scholarships, you know, for people of color. There's scholarships for single parents. You know, so utilizing those scholarships if possible. And just, you know, payment plans and whatnot. Just really basically just doing whatever it takes to get you from one level to the other. But saving, you know, taking some time off. I have friends who would go to school for a semester here and there, and then, you know, work for a year and there. Now, it took them longer, but because they had a dream and they had goals, that was what they did to achieve those goals.
Well, thank you very much. As the saying often goes, the apple does not fall far from the tree. We have Dr. Freeman, mother, who happens to be one of our audience guests. I believe she has something to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chukon, and thank you, Dr. Freeman. We have the mother of Dr. Freeman here. She is a very inspirational to her daughter. She managed to, have her daughter, bring her over here and acquire all those education. She gave all her success tribute to her mother. But Mom, are you proud of your daughter today? What can you tell us about this wonderful doctor?
Thank you for having me here. I'm very proud to be here today and to witness this event. Krista has been a very good, very serious and child that I was always proud of. She worked very hard to accomplish what she has achieved today, and whatever she has said is all what really we went through. And it hasn't been an easy task, but I'm very happy she has accomplished what she wanted, her dream, and this is a very nice time to be proud of her.
My husband's the guy.
So what can you tell other mothers that have kids in this type of situation? What advice you can give to other mothers around here?
They should invest in their kids and work hard and trust them. Help them to accomplish their dreams, and push their kids, stick with them, and keep helping them to reach whatever they have dreamed and want to do. So I just tell other parents to have faith in their kids and do what they want to do.
I just want to, maybe I could just add something to what my mom said.
Thank you very much.
Not sorry to jump in, but just to add something to what she said too. I remember, I think the one time I remember having a red mark on my card was in the 9th grade. It was like the first semester of 9th grade, and I don't want to explain what in the Liberian what happens when you get the red, when you have the red mark. and so because they pay your tuition, so they're paying this money for you, and so they want you to do well. And suffice to say that I never had another red mark that I remember on my card after that. I was very serious in high school. I was actually in my class valedictorian in the College of West Africa. And so, when she's saying this softly, but I really did grow up in a household where they stressed education. They did, and that's good because, my brother and I both graduated from college, and have tried really to be successful. And it's really for them, it's a testimony to what they did. As parents, that's the only thing you can give your children, to try to mold them in a way where they can do good in life. So. Yeah.
Dr. Bryant, I want to thank you. It's always said that behind every successful man is a strong woman. I believe behind this successful woman is a very strong man. And we will not leave from here if we don't have the opportunity to see the man who have actually sustained the bread and have kept this wonderful, wonderful woman going. Can you please give the microphone to Dr. Mr. Freeman? Mr. Freeman, do you have any question for Dr. Bryant?
Not a question per se, but just a word of compliment and of encouragement. I just want to see that my sweetheart very proud of her. Like her mom said, she wear red, work very hard. She's very beautiful, and she cares about the community most of the times. I witness people come to her for advice, so that alone, I'm very grateful to have her as a wife. And I just want to encourage her to keep doing what she's doing. And thanks for having her. Really appreciate the effort that you guys try to bring this story to life. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Let's give a hand of applause to Mr. Freeman here. Thank you.
Well, thank you out there for watching the Serafina show today. Our guest personality is Dr. Crystal Bryant-Freeman. She's here with a live studio audience. If you're watching her out there on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and Instagram, we've been actually looking at personality to watch. As we all know, in our world today, we have diverse story that goes on around talked about. Sarafina is actually a platform where we actually want to tell the story about the challenges, the success of immigrants that live over here in North America. We'll continue down this trend. We want to say thank you to our studio guest, Dr. Crystal Bryant-Freeman. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Choka.
And please use your platform to share about our Sarafina platform.
I will.
And we'll look forward to receiving so many people in the community and telling the story, the immigrant story, the positive immigrant story, and how your life and story is an influence to many boys and girls over there. Also, thank you to your family and your husband for giving us the opportunity. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Yay!